Welcome to Echoes of the Unknown, the podcast where we explore some of the world's most fascinating unsolved mysteries. I'm Jack Montgomery, and today we're traveling back to 1966 to a quiet hillside in Brazil, where two electronics technicians were found dead under strange circumstances. They had carried a bottle of water, a notebook, and a pair of masks made from sheets of lead. A cryptic note revealed they were supposed to swallow capsules, put on the masks, and wait. Decades later, investigators still don't know how they died or what they were waiting for. On the afternoon of August 20th, 1966, a young boy named Jorge da Costa Alves was flying a kite near Morro do Vintém, a brush-covered hill on the outskirts of Niterói, a coastal city across Guanabara Bay from Rio de Janeiro. As he wandered across the slope searching for his kite, he noticed two men lying motionless in the grass. At first glance, they appeared to be resting peacefully, but as the boy approached, he realized something about the scene was deeply unsettling. Both men were fully dressed in suits and raincoats despite the warm weather, and covering their eyes were strange metallic masks made from carefully cut sheets of lead. Alarmed, he immediately alerted authorities. When police arrived, they determined that both of the men were dead. Yet the scene raised more questions than answers. There were no signs of struggle, no visible injuries, and no immediate explanation for why two well-dressed men had died together on an isolated hill, wearing homemade metal masks over their eyes. The victims were identified as Manuel Pereira de Cruz, age 32, and Miguel José Viana, age 34. Both men lived in the city of Campos dos Goitacazes, roughly 170 miles north of Niterói, where they worked together as electronics technicians repairing radios and television sets. Friends described them as intelligent and technically skilled, the kind of men who enjoyed tinkering with circuits and electrical components. Yet the two men also shared another, more unusual fascination. Both had developed a deep interest in spiritualism and paranormal experimentation. During the 1960s, Brazil was experiencing a surge of interest in mysticism, psychic communication, and UFO sightings, and groups devoted to spiritualist ideas were common. Da Cruz and Viana were known to have read books on the subject, and they discussed theories about communicating with unseen forces. At first, this interest seemed little more than an unusual hobby, but after their deaths, investigators began to wonder whether those beliefs had somehow led them into a dangerous and fatal experiment. The chain of events that led to the tragedy began a few days earlier, on August 17. That morning, Da Cruz told his wife that he needed to travel to Niterói to purchase electronic equipment for work. He packed some tools and money before leaving home with Viana, adding that he might be gone for several days. The two men boarded a bus and traveled south to the coastal city. When they arrived that afternoon, witnesses later recalled seeing them at a shop where they purchased a bottle of water and two raincoats, an odd purchase given the warm and clear weather. The shopkeeper also remembered the men carrying a bag that investigators later believed may have contained the lead masks. Later, the men stopped at a small cafe where a waitress would later tell police they seemed tense and repeatedly checked their watches as if waiting for something scheduled to happen at a precise time. Shortly afterward, they began walking toward Morro do Vintém, the quiet hillside where their bodies would be discovered 3 days later. When investigators examined the scene, they discovered several items lying near the bodies: 2 towels, an empty bottle of water, and a small notebook containing a handwritten message that would become central to the mystery. The note appeared to outline a sequence of instructions written in Portuguese, suggesting the two men had carefully planned whatever they intended to do on that hillside. Inside the notebook was a set of chilling instructions. 4:30 p.m., be at the designated location. 6:30 p.m., ingest the capsules. After the effect, protect the metals. Await the signal. Mask. The wording was strange and fragmented, almost like a checklist for a ritual or experiment. Investigators later concluded the message had likely been written before the men even left their hometown, suggesting that whatever they had expected to happen on that hillside had been planned days in advance. Even more puzzling were the masks themselves. Each had been meticulously cut from a sheet of lead and shaped to cover the eye area like crude goggles. They had no straps and appeared designed simply to rest against the face, leading investigators to suspect they were meant to protect the eyes from some kind of bright flash or radiation. Since one line in the note referred to ingesting capsules, investigators believe that suggests the men may have taken some form of drug or chemical shortly before their deaths. Police searched the hillside extensively, but never found any capsules or pill containers. Autopsies were performed, yet the results provided few answers. Because the bodies had remained exposed to the elements for several days before discovery, decomposition had already begun, making it impossible to determine the exact time of death or perform reliable toxicology testing. No poison could be conclusively identified, and there were no injuries indicating violence. With no clear explanation for how the men had died, the official cause of death was recorded simply as undetermined. As detectives continued investigating the men's backgrounds, several unsettling details began to surface. Friends reported that De Cruz and Viana had previously experimented with psychedelic substances while attempting to communicate with spirits or otherworldly entities. Some believed the pair thought intense flashes of light might allow contact with supernatural beings, or even extraterrestrial visitors. In De Cruz's workshop, investigators later found additional pieces of lead, believed to have come from the same sheet used to manufacture the masks, suggesting the devices had been carefully planned and constructed before the trip. Another curious detail emerged when investigators examined the men's belongings. De Cruz and Viana still carried a considerable amount of cash, the equivalent of several $100s at the time. For two working technicians in 1966, that was a substantial sum, yet none of it had been taken. The discovery effectively ruled out robbery and suggested the men had traveled to the hillside voluntarily, following a plan of their own. Even the strange lead mass appeared to support that idea. The metal had been cut with precision, indicating they had been carefully manufactured beforehand. Yet the mass had no straps or fasteners of any kind. That detail suggests the masks were probably meant to be placed over the eyes only at the final moment, perhaps just before the men expected whatever mysterious signal they had come to witness. Meanwhile, a few local residents claimed they had seen a strange orange glow hovering above Morro de Vintém on the night the men were believed to have died. Although these sightings were never confirmed, they fueled rumors that the two technicians had been attempting to witness, or perhaps summon, something extraordinary. Yet the most haunting detail remained the position of the bodies themselves. De Cruz and Viana were lying calmly on their backs side by side, as though they had simply laid down together and waited. Over the years, investigators and researchers have proposed numerous explanations for the bizarre scene on that hillside. One widely discussed theory suggests the men were conducting a spiritual or scientific experiment involving hallucinogenic drugs. The capsules mentioned in the note may have contained substances intended to produce visions or altered states of consciousness, while the lead masks may have been meant to shield their eyes from a flash of light they expected to witness during the experiment. If so, something may have gone tragically wrong. The dosage may have been fatal, or the capsules may have contained an unidentified toxic substance the men did not fully understand. Another theory suggests the two technicians may have been manipulated by someone who convinced them to participate in a dangerous ritual, though no evidence of a third person was ever discovered. And of course, the case has long attracted speculation from UFO enthusiasts who believe the mysterious signal mentioned in the note referred to extraterrestrial contact. Yet without physical evidence, all of these explanations remain little more than speculation. Nearly 60 years later, the deaths of Manuel Pereira da Cruz and Miguel José Viana remain one of Brazil's most perplexing unsolved cases. What's known is that two skilled technicians traveled across the country carrying carefully crafted lead masks, some unknown capsules, and a cryptic set of instructions. They climbed a quiet hillside overlooking the city, lay down side by side, and died waiting for a signal that almost certainly never came. But whatever they expected to happen that night remains a matter of debate to this day. Whether they were attempting to contact spirits, were conducting a misguided scientific experiment, or were chasing something even stranger, the truth behind the lead mass mystery may be lost forever. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Echoes of the Unknown. If you found this story compelling, please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with fellow mystery lovers. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and remember, sometimes the most baffling mysteries are the ones that leave behind just enough clues to haunt us.